On the second part of this video, we're going to look at renaming the part features. So we've got extrusion 1 and extrusion 2 here. We're going to identify these parts and rename them. And just to let you know, in a more complicated part, it does help to just give them a specific name so you know what's going on at that part. You can also point to the section and you should be able to see that it highlights the view as you're pointing to it, so you can kind of keep track of what happened during that extrusion. So let's just start off by pointing to extrusion 1, and when you point to that with your left mouse button, I clicked on it with the left mouse button, and then we're just going to rename this. I'm going to name this base, and then click outside of that, and then I'm going to click on extrusion 2. Click in twice there, and I'm going to call this circular end. Okay, so that's how we can quickly rename those part features. Now let's move on to another method of editing the dimensions. So in some of the other previous videos or lectures in class, I've shown you that you can expand out the sketch and then you can edit the dimensions that way. You can also simply click on the base, like point to the base and show dimensions, and it will bring up all of the dimensions that was used in order to create that original sketch. So you can, without going into like the sketch, like going into edit sketch and finishing the sketch, you can simply click on the dimensions on the in this edit or the show dimensions, and you can change the dimension. So once you change the dimension, the part will not immediately update. Okay, so it changed the dimension, so I changed the value, and the part will actually update after I make the change. So I've got 3, and what I have to do in order to get that dimension or the physical part to update, go to your local update button up here at the top, and it's going to regenerate this part as per the changes in the dimensions. So that part just changed. So now if we were to go back and just to verify this, if we did the edit dimensions and edit sketch, there's the 3-inch dimension change. So that's how another way of changing it. Now, what's really important to be aware of is when you are, this is another example of that parent-child relationship with the parts, making sure that the relationship between certain things or certain surfaces stay intact. Alright, we're going to change the overall extruded width of this. The extruded distance was 2.5 inches, and we're going to make that 2 inches. So back to the base, show the dimensions, and then you're going to have to look for the dimension, and there's the 2.5. So I'm going to double click on that 2.5-inch dimension, change that to 2, and watch this icon up here at the top. This is your local update dimension. I'm sorry, local update button. If that changes to like a orange lightning bolt, then that means you have an update. Right now it's grayed out. I'll hit the check there, and as soon as I hit that check, I now have an update. I can click on that, and now it's updated, and it's 2 inches. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to place a feature on this piece right here. We're going to be using the hold command in order to do this, and I'm going to show you how to point to the actual plane where we're going to be placing this, and actually we're going to be using the circles. Since they are concentric and they share the same center point, we're going to see that option or that reference symbol pop up as we're placing this hole. So using the hold command, I'm going to point to the bottom plane right here. I'm going to click on that right there, and you can see that little icon pop up right there, the 2 circles. That means that it's looking for a concentric circle. So we want it to be concentric with that circle that's already been drawn there. So I'm going to click on that, and now that's going to move over to the center. I want this circle to be a hole, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over and look at the type. Since we've got the location submitted or selected, we're going to click on a simple hole. It's not going to be counterbore, so I'm going to click off of that because I think that was the default. The last hole I used was a counterbore, so we don't want to have a hole in there. I'm going to change make sure the direction is the way I want it, and now I'm going to fix the diameter. So I want that diameter to be 0.75, so I'm going to type in 0.75, and let's see what else we have here to get through. Let's make sure it goes through all. By not having a distance specified with the through all, that means that anytime this thickness right here changes, that is going to update. Okay, so if I had to change the overall thickness, the hole is going to go through the entire piece because we have through all. If I had a distance specified, then it's only going to go through the distance. So if the part now is 3/4 of an inch, and I said make the hole, you know, I think it's a half inch or so on this piece right here, then that hole would always be ½ inch. So you have to be careful in using that through all. It's just a better and safer way to draw that and maintain the part as the part may undergo changes. So hit OK, and we now have the hole in that feature. The next thing we're going to do is look at cutting the rectangle shape on this surface right here. So I'm going to right click on this and create a new sketch. I'm using the rectangle command. I'm just going to sketch that out first, and now I'm going to apply the dimensions for that rectangle. Oops, there we go. Bring that down. That's not what I meant to do. Try that again. There we go. So 1 inch here. We don't want any distance at the top there. I want this to be a ½ inch from the edge. And the overall height for this piece is 0.75. Alright, so I've got that rectangle in here. I'm going to finish sketch, and I'm going to extrude this. So what we're going to look at now is the to next command. So the to next extrude will extrude to the next surface, or to the next feature. So I'm going to hit OK there and save that. Now I want to go ahead and update this. I want this to be renamed with the rectangle cut. So I'm going to double click on the name. Come on. 2 left clicks, and I want this to be rectangle, or RECT CUT. Alright, and I actually do want to modify this. I want to modify that rectangle to go all the way through. I just want to show you the difference between using to next. So to next will go to the next feature, which was this this surface right here. But if we change this and edit the feature, and instead of going to next and going through all, that rectangle will cut through the entire surface. So go ahead and make that change on your part and hit OK. So it would be great if every time we did a drawing or designed a part, it would be perfect and we would never have to make changes, but that's not always the case. A lot of times we do have to go back and make changes, and that's why in this chapter we really look at this model browser and really want to make sure that you're familiar with how to change and make modifications to your existing sketches and extrusions. So we're going to add another change. We're going to add a fillet right here on this corner right here. So this is going to be a change where we're going to edit the actual sketch. So we're going to go back over to the base, and we're going to right click on the we're going to right click and edit sketch 1 and go back to this view right here. If at any time when you are editing a sketch and you are in, let's say, the isometric layout, you can click on the look at button. If you click on the look at button and then pick a line that's on your sketch, it will go ahead and reorient your screen to make it flat with whatever XY plane or whatever plane you're working on. So that's the look at button, and remember the F6 button is also another button that will toggle that and have the default for the isometric. So two toggle buttons I don't know if you're totally familiar with, but it's good to know that they're there when you're trying to manipulate your drawing and get it to orient in the right direction. You can also click on your view cube at any time. If you click on the home button, that's going to orient it, but you could also click on the front button and that will also give an orientation. So yeah, just like some of the other software, 2 or 3 ways to do something, the same thing, multiple ways, but you should get familiar with it, with whatever. So let's move on to the fillet command. We're going to put a fillet right here. We're going to modify our existing sketch. If you go in up at the top on your create toolbar, we're looking for the fillet button right there, and you need to make sure that the 0.25 is going to be the radius, and you're going to pick the 2 lines that are coming together in order to make that fillet. So we're going to change and go from a 90-degree angle into a radius. So we're going to change that, select those 2 lines, hit finish sketch, and then you should have a fillet form right there on your sketch. So let's go ahead and get to a good point, and let's go ahead and save this as a saddle drawing. Alright, so let's finish up this part here by assigning a physical property to this right here. Right now we're just using generic and a default type of material. One thing that's really nice with Inventor is that you can actually assign the actual material type and then get some physical properties about that part. So I'm going to click on the saddle bracket with my right mouse button and scroll down to the eye properties. Once I click on the eye properties, we're now going to look over at the physical tab. If you look at the physical tab, you'll see that we're set up with a generic material. So let's go ahead and click on the material and let's redefine the actual material. Scroll, I think I'm going to have to, scroll up, and we're going to look for the aluminum 6061. So go ahead and pick on that. And now we're going to look at the different materials properties. So you've got the mass, the area, and the volume. So based off of the design, your dimension or your values here should be the same as mine if the part was drawn equally. So take a look at that there. This is pretty good. This is some good information here to be able to extract from your drawing. Also, they give you the center of the gravity, so they can give you the XY location of the center of gravity. The this is something that you can kind of get in, look at the different parts, look at the different materials that are there, and if you're having to design something based off of a specific weight, you can easily look at the different materials and see what you can come up with. So on your own, kind of look through that and see all of the different types of options. Once you've made your final material selection, go ahead and hit apply and close out of this box here, and you will note that your part should change. There's also up here at the top, you'll be able to see that you have another location place to select your material type. So there's the aluminum 6061. You can also go into this, but this is just a quick location to change the actual part and the visual, but we're not getting any feedback on any values. But this is if you want to change how your part or assign the material here. you can do that as well without having to go into the iProperties. When we go into iProperties, we would then be able to get the information, but this is just another place to quickly be able to change the look of your part, which is pretty